Hey guys, what's going on? James here, and in this video today, we're going to be talking about all of the players that we all should be keeping an eye on for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers wildcard round matchup versus the Washington football team. Let's not waste any time, and let's get started with the first player that I want to talk about, that being the Buccaneers quarterback himself, Tom Brady. And there's a lot of reasons why Tom Brady is a player to watch. Number one, he just took the Tampa Bay Buccaneers to the playoffs for the first time in 13 years for this franchise, and I don't care what anybody says, Tom Brady was a big part of that. I mean, the team was relatively pretty much the same, minus a couple of changes. You know, Tristan Wirfs coming in for DeMar Dotson, Antonio Brown getting in there as well as Rob Gronkowski, but Tom Brady played phenomenal in year one of this Bruce Arians offense, throwing 40 touchdowns and I believe 11 to 12 interceptions, something along those lines. It was great. It was the best year ever by a quarterback in year one of Bruce Arians' system. Makes sense. Tom Brady is the greatest, quarterback of all time. After all, of course, he would have success. But with very little prep time, coming into this season and working in a new offensive system, there were people who had their doubts, especially at Tom Brady's age. He overcame all of those odds, as he usually does, and took the Buccaneers to the playoffs. And now, as a lot of Patriots fans, a lot of Tom Brady fans, and, a lot of Buccaneers fans have pointed out to me, we're getting playoff Tom Brady. So what is that going to look like? Well, the pessimistic people would say that you would be getting the Tom Brady of last year's playoff, who unfortunately lost in round one to the Tennessee Titans. However, I'm on the optimistic side. I'm going to say that we are going to be getting the playoff Tom Brady of old, when he was in his prime, because right now as it stands, Tom Brady looks as good as he has been in his prime. So I'm expecting Tom Brady to come out there and just absolutely take over a ball game and lead this team to the best of his abilities, because that's what Tom Brady does. He's been doing it throughout the whole season, and I would not expect that to change at all in the playoffs. In fact, I would expect it to even take to even greater heights than it already has. So pay attention to Tom Brady. Let's see how he does in playoff form, in playoff caliber football. That is where Tom Brady excels 1,000,000%. So I'm going to be very excited to see playoff Tom Brady in a Buccaneers uniform, and I hope you guys are all excited as well. The second player that I think we should all be keeping an eye on is going to be star middle linebacker Lavonte David. And again, it shouldn't really be a surprise as to why I have Lavonte David here. He's been waiting so freaking long to make the playoffs. So long. I mean, it has been 9 years, 8 to 9 years. It's been a long time since Lavonte David has joined the NFL, and this man finally gets a chance to play in the playoffs. You cannot help but feel excited for Lavonte David, and you also can't help but think that Lavonte David is going to come into this game playing with his absolute best, playing on all cylinders, playing at 150%. I mean, Lavonte David is going to want this so freaking bad, as is every player on the Buccaneers. But, there's going to be a little bit more there, I think, for Lavonte David, considering he has been having to wait so freaking long. And I'm excited to see it. I think he deserves it 100% to finally get a playoff game under his belt, and I think he will do very good. He had a very underrated season that a lot of people overlooked. Even some Bucs fans overlooked this, and he just continued to be his Lavonte David self and do the great things that he has always done throughout his career with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. So I'm very excited for the longtime Buck to finally get a chance to play in a playoff game, and let's see how he does in his first ever playoff action in his career. The next player that we should all be keeping an eye on is going to be Buccaneers wide receiver Antonio Brown. Now, the reason I have him on here is, kind of an entirely different reason. Is I am going to be interested to see how Antonio Brown factors into this offense. It seems like he is building more and more momentum and steam as time has been going on here the last couple of games. He's been getting more and more integrated into the offense, getting more and more looks from Tom Brady, and it's been working. Overall, Antonio Brown has been a very solid addition to this team so far in terms of the player, and his numbers have been very good. And Overall, with Mike Evans dealing with his hyperextended knee, Antonio Brown is going to have to step up in a huge way. He did that in Week 17 versus the Falcons, and he may have to do it again, depending on how limited Mike Evans is or if he is able to play in this game versus the Washington football team. And so far, he's been very solid the past couple of games. So let's see if he can keep that momentum going, keep all the, good stats and, good play that he has had the past couple of games going in this first round playoff matchup versus the Washington football team. It should definitely be one to keep an eye on, as well as Chris Godwin. I don't know which one would command the presence of Kendall Fuller, but whichever one doesn't, the other one should excel. So if Antonio Brown's getting covered by Kendall Fuller, look for more looks to maybe Chris Godwin. If Chris Godwin gets covered by Kendall Fuller, maybe look for some more looks for Antonio Brown. But again, I've said it before and I will say it again, this is still an incredibly tough wide receiver group for any team to handle in the NFL, especially if the monster trio is out there. But if that is not the case, still, Chris Godwin, Antonio Brown, and Scotty Miller should be able to put up some very good numbers in their own right. The second to last player that I think we should all be keeping an eye on, it's a little bit of a, 2-for-1 type deal. It's going to be Jamel Dean and Sean Murphy-Bunting. This is going to be interesting because what I just said about Antonio Brown, he's been playing good the past couple of games, could be reversed for Jamel Dean and Sean Murphy-Bunting. They have struggled a little bit in recent weeks. I would say especially Sean Murphy-Bunting more so than Jamel Dean, but both guys have had their troubles to end out the year. I already talked about Carlton Davis probably going up against Terry McLaurin, but I'm going to be interested to see how Jamel Dean and how Sean Murphy-Bunting do against the other Washington football team wide receivers who have, one, basically been a revolving door of guys just trying to get opportunities for themselves, and two, they haven't been very good with those opportunities that they have had. So fingers crossed that both these guys can be able to rebound after struggling for the past couple of weeks. We will have to wait and see. But, if they struggle in this game, versus the Washington football team's other wide receivers besides Terry McLaurin, that's tough. That is just tough in my opinion, and that's borderline inexcusable because I talked about this in the previous video. The Washington football team definitely has some limited weapons. Terry McLaurin and Antonio Gibson, J.D. McKissick, and Logan Thomas are their main four weapons. Levante David is going to have to handle, Logan Thomas, I think, a great deal. Also try and help out with J.D. McKissick and Antonio Gibson. Carlton Davis definitely going up against Terry McLaurin. So it seems like Sean Murphy-Bunting and Jamel Dean hopefully would have the easier matchups or two of the easier matchups in terms of the entirety of the Buccaneers defense. Let's hope that they can deliver after struggling for a couple of weeks. Finally, guys, the last player that I think we should all keep an eye on is going to be Buccaneers kicker Ryan Succop, who actually had a great rebound game versus the Falcons after he struggled a little bit versus the Detroit Lions. And I have Ryan Succop here because, with playoffs and being clutch and things like that, sometimes it does come down to the kicker. And I'm not going to say that it's going to be a last-second win-the-game field goal from Ryan Succop or anything like that, but I want Ryan Succop to make all of his kicks to make it as easy as possible for this offense and for this team as a whole. If he's on all of his P's and Q's, he's making his field goals when he needs to make them, he's making his extra points when he needs to make them, he's not leaving points on the board, that is going to help monumentally. It's a big momentum shift, and it makes sure that you're not leaving anything on the table. I would be pretty darn stressed out if Ryan Succop left 6 or 7 points on the board due to missed field goals or a missed extra point or something along those lines. Knock on wood right now, because I don't want to jinx anything, and I think he will be fine. He has been very solid throughout the entirety of the season for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, and I have him on here because I want him to do his best, and I think he's going to do his best. I have no reason not to believe that. I think that Ryan Succop will be good. He's been good for the Buccaneers the entire season, like I just said, and him making all of his kicks is going to be so huge and so important for this Buccaneers team with momentum and just making sure they're scoring as many points as possible, because in the playoffs, even more so than the regular season, you want to leave no points on the table. Hands down. But with that being said, guys, that is all the players that I have to keep an eye on for the Buccaneers' upcoming wild card round matchup versus the Washington football team. What do you guys think? What do you think about the players that I mentioned, and what are some other players that you all are going to be keeping an eye on in this upcoming game? But guys, that is going to be it for this video. I thank you all so much for watching, and I will see you guys in the next video or the next live stream. But until then, and as always, guys, goodbye for now, and go Bucs.